Greetings, friends. So, sometime back, I think it was about a year ago, I did a brief video where I discussed something that Jean Dubuis shared in The Experience of Eternity. Jean Dubuis is a great esoteric, great esoteric French thinker, philosopher, and alchemist. All of these things, philosopher. And something he said in this book really stuck out at me. So I made a video about it, and it stuck out to me because it seemed so pertinent to the time that we were in. And like I said, it was probably about a year ago. Was it only a year ago? Like, wow, it seems like a lifetime ago. But the height of the insanity, when all these things were happening just all around the world in all ways, nobody knew. It was like you never knew what was real, right? You would see something and then you would find out the truth was different underneath, or you would think something was true for a week and then it would turn out like, no, that wasn't true. It was like we were living in a house of mirrors, right? And so Dubuis' wisdom seemed very pertinent to the times then. It was actually like the one thing I read that helped me make sense of the time that we were living in at that time. And, since then, the world has kind of calmed down a little bit, and that's good. I think everybody needed a respite from the chaos. And all this is obviously relative because there's actually still mad, chaotic things happening all the time. But in comparison, in context, we have built like a tolerance to it because we went through such a crazy roller coaster from 2019 into 2021. And so things relatively calmed down, thankfully, because I think everybody emotionally needed a little bit of a break. But then, this news a couple days ago that there was like supposedly two missiles went astray from Russia and went into Poland and killed a couple people. And when it happened, last night I was in a cybersecurity class, and obviously everybody was like, "Well, that's probably the trigger for this thing's about to escalate even worse. We're probably talking World War III now," and understandably. And then I wake up this morning, and there's the story saying, well, there's I think it's NATO themselves are saying there's actually no proof that these were Russian missiles. These explosions are kind of unexplained. And it just made me come back to Dubuis again. And so I wanted to share this again and briefly encapsulate what Dubuis says is happening or what we're living through. And Dubuis wrote this a long time ago. I'm not going to say this was like a Nostradamus thing. He doesn't discuss particular dates or anything, but he was saying like we're entering this phase, and it's kind of complicated because it has to do with these like mineral and plant levels of it's like a complicated thing that I'm still working to fully grasp. But the essence of it is that reality, human consciousness, which in the alchemical esoteric view is reality itself, like human consciousness and reality, it all works together. It's one thing, right? And we're in this period right now where we're raising to this next level, right? And it's a chaotic and violent period, and kind of a frightening period, honestly, for a lot of people, and a stressful period. It's been stressful for me as well. But what Dubuis said in the book, and I might actually still, and sorry, I have a very busy day. I wanted to put this together. I didn't have a chance to fully dive in beforehand, but it's okay because I remember the key part, but I might have the actual part bookmarked. Yes. And so, all right. But at our stage, it is required to develop two qualities that will be precious and indispensable during our ascent. Discernment, pushed to an almost scientific rigor, and goodwill, which is a true universal solvent. Now, the part about goodwill, which is a true universal solvent, obviously that's a worthwhile thought, but that's not the one that I wanted to share, the one that I shared a year ago. The one that I wanted to talk about again was that developing an almost scientific rigor in determining what is... it looks like my camera is having a hard time to adjust. I don't know. Like I said, I'm busy. I don't have time to deal with it. But so what Dubuis was saying was that it's going to be hard to discern what is real. And so that if we want to preserve our own sanity, our own emotional well-being, you basically have to learn to live in this space where we accept that we don't really know what's happening until we truly have very solid evidence, right? And the reason that stuck in my mind so much when I read it a couple years ago, when I did that video like about a year ago, it might be more than that. I'm sorry, my sense of time is all screwed up because on top of the madness that we've been going through, I moved across the country and all of this. But just my point is, that Dubuis' wisdom gave me some measure of peace and solace through a lot of the madness, because I would remind myself, we don't actually know what's happening. Now, when I go into this, there's been this explosion in this space, whatever you want to call this space, this esoteric, alternative, spiritual, whatever it is. I wish it was an alternative. I really wish we were all talking together, like Christians, Muslims, like all the mainstream religions and the people who are into the more kind of esoteric. I wish we were all just talking together about all this stuff, but whatever, it is what it is, right? But in this space, there's been a lot of people that have popped up, and they're taking it. I don't want to say taking advantage, because I don't think most of them are consciously doing it. Beyond they just want attention, or they want views, or whatever it is. But they're taking this and saying, like, reality's really weird out there. It doesn't make any sense. There is no reality. Nothing is real. And you know what? Maybe on some level, there really is no reality, right? Maybe we do live in this sea of probabilities, and, the probabilities don't manifest into any avenue or embodiment until human consciousness makes them so, right? But even if so, we clearly do live in a world where some things are so mathematically probable that they're basically certain, such as if I step out my door on the ground will hold me up. I will stand there on the ground. Or, you know what I mean? Like, some of these people, they go too far, and I want to be careful not to do that, especially because we live in such a tenuous time right now. And, like, it's easy to go overboard and be like, oh, there is no reality at all. That's not true, obviously. But there are things happening right now, and this has probably always been, well, it has always been the case, but it's even more so now. There are things happening in the world, and we don't really know what the hell is going on. Yeah, and unless you can somehow ascertain the evidence, or see it with your own two eyes and touch it with your own hands, I think right now the best approach is to just learn to live in a state where you accept that you don't actually know what's happening. And I think that's probably actually a good philosophy to go through life in general. But I think right now it's especially important, right? Because we're back in the funhouse of mirrors. And what I was saying earlier, we've had this respite, right? It's been relatively more mild. But I personally, judging by my own research and my own thoughts and my own feelings, I think it was a respite before things are about to get bonkers again. And so I think this Polish missile thing can be a good reminder. Remember the landscape. Remember where we are. Remember the territory that we're in. Right? There's been a little bit of a sleepy period, thankfully. We all needed a little bit of a rest. But I don't think we're out of the landscape yet. I don't think we're out of the territory yet. And so remember to buckle up and get ready if the ride comes back. And when that does happen, if that does happen, remember that do not allow your imagination to get the best of you, because we're living in a funhouse mirror world, hall of mirrors, and funhouse mirrors, whatever. I'm getting the analogy screwed up in my head. But like I said, I'm busy. I just hopped on to do this real quick. I was driving, thinking about this. So let's keep the mind focused on only accepting the things that are around you if you can confirm that what you think is happening really is happening. Because if not, it's going to be a very dangerous time, right? For your own health, I mean. I'm just talking about your own health and your own peace and your own happiness, right? Okay, and so then, and by the way, if you can get your hands on this book, Ooh, doggy, that's a book. But all right. The other thing I want to talk about very quickly was it also brings me back because the idea, partially from Dubuis, but also from just my general observations and my own readings and my own experience of what's going on right now, it feels kind of like reality has kind of come undone. You know, it's frayed. The threads are frayed, and there's negative aspects to that, but there's good aspects to it too. Because as we're moving into this new world, and you don't even have to look at this from a esoteric spiritual perspective. I think you could just look at this from a normal materialistic perspective, right? You can look around and see that our old institutions are falling away. Our old ways of relating to each other are falling apart. The old world is crumbling. And in that period, we get a little more freedom than we normally would to shape our own reality, but also to help shape the world around us, right? And let's remember to grab hold of that be our best selves in this, you know what I mean? Like, amidst all this chaos and this fear and this uncertainty, be the best people that we can be and try to be leaders who help shape what's going to come out of this, right? And like I said, to me, there is no difference between the spiritual and the material, but that's like its whole other thing. I mean, there's literally no difference. The way I see them is they're interpenetrating manifestations of each other, but I don't have time to get into that. Just suffice it to say, when I say this does not, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm saying you need to go out there and be a wizard who shoots lightning bolts at the sky. I'm saying, maybe in this time of uncertainty and fear and these economic hardships, what if you were to start a tutoring program at your local library where you tutored kids for free, right? Because tutoring is usually something that's reserved for families who have money that could afford it. What if you did that? That would reshape the reality of your town, of your street. Not completely, but it would help reshape it a little bit. What if you did some beautiful landscaping in your yard so that the people driving by were inspired by it? What if you got yourself into killer physical shape so that you could be a inspiration to the people around you to get themselves into killer physical shape? Because that is something, man. Americans got to get their asses in shape, man. But anyway, so yeah. Those things to me are spiritual at the same time as they are material. I don't think there's a difference. But again, I would have to get into how I think reality works on like an actual physical level. Just suffice it to say, in this time, people are discombobulated. Institutions are churning over and things are bubbling to the surface. And everything's topsy-turvy. And in that is this chance to influence things for the better and to maybe help push whatever the world is going to be that comes out of this, to help push it to a better place, right? Now, I think that mainly just starts with our own lives, right? Like, I think there's actually a little, in my personal opinion, there's a little too much emphasis on like putting a dent in the universe. I think a lot of it really comes down to just focusing on being your best self, and then once you do that, you emanate and you can be a better person to the people around you, right? Even if that just means if you become more financially stable, you can help the people around you financially. If you become healthier, you can give people health advice. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm a little scattered. I'll say for the third and last time, as I know I'm repeating myself, I literally just hopped on here to do this, and I apologize if I'm rambling. But in this madness, in this chaos, and I personally think the roller coaster ride's about to pick up again, there is opportunity here. There is opportunity to help shape the world that is going to come out of this, right? And I just wanted to remind everybody about that. But mainly, I wanted to say, we're back in the Funhouse, man. I mean, we never really left the Funhouse, but we're back in the Funhouse. And let's keep our minds focused and keep shrewd and keep your bullshit detector up because there's a lot of bullshit out there right now, both intentional and I think people just caught up in the madness themselves. And stay smart, and stay alert, and keep yourself sane by not believing anything that you cannot validate yourself. So that's it. Peace out, my friends.